We're back, and this week we're covering GitHub security, TypeScript, faster Java execution, and some Meteor-specific news and highlights from this year's Stack Overflow Developer Survey. So if you want to know what over 64,000 developers are thinking, we've got some news for you. And our friend Jan Kuster has a suggestion as to how we can make this community even more vibrant.
Yes. So if you are a Meteor developer and you have something to show, may it be the smallest package and nobody ever noticed it, but you're very proud of this, please let us know. We want to make a submission showcase of what people have to offer in this community. And this is especially for those who are usually not so visible or maybe even want to remain less visible. That's totally okay. Show us your work. And then maybe even you have a question, can we improve that? How can I make it Meteor 3 compatible or whatever? We will cover it and work on it with you together or on our own. That's up to you.
So we know many of you have done some amazing things with Meteor, and we would like to see as much of that out here as possible. As Jan is suggesting, it could be something as small as a package, as large as an entire system, or it could be an internal application that you use for yourself to improve your productivity or your team's productivity. So we're going to post a continuing forum thread on Meteor Forums that will invite you to share links to your work and to start a conversation with you. If you'd like to join us on the program to talk about it, we'd be happy to have you. But if you just want us to, highlight it and let others see it, we'd be happy with that too. And with that, I believe we're at episode number 50 of This Week in MeteorJS, a weekly newscast of the MeteorJS Dispatches podcast. I'm streaming to you live from New York City. My name is Alim Ghaffar.
Hello everybody, I am Jan Dvorak, aka Storyteller, coming to you live from Prague, Czechia.
Hey everybody, I'm Jan Kuster, streaming to you live from Germany.
And with that, we go straight into the news. Storyteller, lead us off.
Yay. So as always, there is some security-related issue happening. It's kind of hard to keep up with everything. Here we have this week for you, I would say, a big reminder about what you put into your GitHub, because Truffle Security have discovered that, even though you might have a private repository and private forks, all that stuff, it's not really private. And they go into nice details. The good thing, though, is that you kind of have security and obscurity. And there's actually also a lot of, say, bots and scrappers that are going through GitHub and looking up if you have any keys out there that could be kind of found, as in this picture, that you have like a key, for example, the postmark, something like that, and they will send you an email if that happens, if that's in a public repository. And of course, if the good guys have it, that means the bad guys have it as well. And what this thing is interesting is what they show us here. If I scroll here, that even if you delete the upstream repository, of course, all the forks still remain. The same thing with the commit. So if you have the hash of the commit, then you can still go in there, and the data will remain there pretty much, forever, with some caveats. And this is working as intended. So it's there's quite a big discussion. Okay, is this a security issue, or is this a feature? So highly recommend reading this article. Check it out so that you are aware of it. The moral of the story is, do not put any keys or private information into anything that you push online or on GitHub. It is not, it will always somehow end up public.
So are there any other mechanisms we can leverage to prevent such, let's say, having anyone of my team committing a sensitive key or something to the repository?
Not really. You have, first of all, if it remains private and everything, as you can see here, you can have private repo, but the commits will eventually, if you have any commits like that, they will be, even they are like private for, they can still be accessed publicly. The only way you can really, say fix it is that you delete it, do hard, force push overwrite any of the previous commits. So at least, publicly, if you cannot go through GitHub interface and so on, or to CLI, it will not be visible. That is one way. Of course, you need to rotate those keys, because even if you, as I said, if you put it for a second on GitHub in like any public fashion, people already have it, the bad guys, and they will soon try to access it. So rotate those keys as soon as possible. You will usually get some information email saying you, hey, this looks like a key that you're publicly, please fix that. But other than that, nothing can just pretty much obscure as much as possible. And the best thing you can do is if you like push some keys or some password in there, is to change that immediately.
All right. I think we've got another story from you, Jan Kuster.
Yes.
Sort of the main gist of this today.
Yeah, so developers worldwide took the survey from StackOverflow, which hasn't died yet from AI. They're still there, and they will survive. I think they will definitely put all that into their new platform strategy. But one of the most famous yearly or annual outcomes of StackOverflow is the survey. And this year, even over 65,000 respondents for the survey. And, there are many things for you to read up there on your own. The survey is very detailed. I looked up what is the most important for us as a community, as the Meteor community, but also as a web developer and JavaScript, Node.js ecosystem community in a whole. And these are the main three things. Is the first thing, the most important resources developers across all languages use to find any information is technical documentations, API docs, and READMEs. So anyone who's providing a repository has to make sure these documents are well formatted, readable, understandable, because that's where developers will look up when they work with your package, with your project, with your tool, or whatever you provide as a developer. And I think this is, from beginner to professional, just important to consider and to reconsider. The second thing, and this is where we as a community might have some implications for. The most popular technologies on the StackOverflow survey are still the web technologies, JS, HTML, CSS, and Node.js as part of the web frameworks, which I think is not a framework, but it's actually a web server platform, and followed by Python, in my opinion, mostly due to the AI hype. But what's really useful here for us to think about is the SQL variations, PostgreSQL, MySQL, and so on. They are leading the databases from position 1 to 4, and MongoDB being at the 5th, still the strongest NoSQL. But as you can see there, SQL is super famous, super popular, and people are also quite happy with SQL. So we as a community should think about in the future how we position SQL. We all know it would destroy the whole JavaScript full stack promise of Meteor. But the question is, if we want to refocus on SQL, for example, as a strong community package or something. So let us know what you think about SQL in the realm of Meteor. We all know, we also know that there were these forum posts with some discussions on SQL, and please engage again if you have an opinion on that, because I think it seems to be in the overall ecosystem still the #1 database, and I've also seen people demanding or asking what's the status of SQL. So let's get into that discussion back again. And then there's the third and final finding, and this is something which made me really think for quite some time, and that is that 80% of the developers that responded to the survey responded they were not happy about their current work situation as a developer. And this is totally crazy, in my opinion, because developers are among the most well-paid people in many countries and have very well-paid position, but also a very interesting job and so on. But if you look into the details about why they're not happy, you can see a lot of management issues, but also a lot of technological depth and complexity issues. So if you're a manager, then think about if you can make the life of your developers easier, if you want to keep them as your developers. And if you're an architect or an engineer who's designing complex technologies, then think about how to make your technology long-term reliant and long-term capable and reduce technical debt. And we also covered technical debt, by the way, just a few weeks before with Adrian Lanning. And that was just tipping the surface. That was just an overview, but this topic is really big and affects everyone from a package designer to the whole Meteor core. I just went through the Meteor core a few days ago. Technical debt is such a huge thing. So, and it has been responded, I think, as the it's not the correct view on this, on the professional developers tag. When you scroll down a little bit, yeah, there is, if you scroll far more down, there comes these developer experience, and a little bit more down, there's job, industry, and satisfaction. And then you see these industry and then satisfied at current jobs, and only 20.2% they responded to be happy. And then you have these factors that make people happy or frustrated, and you can break that down mostly to technical debt being one of the problematic things, but also what like tracking time and tracking issues and stuff like that. So this is something that annoys people. And again, I still wonder how this all happens, because we're one of the well-paid industries, but also at the same time have very interesting jobs, in my opinion. So maybe if someone has an experience with that, maybe you leave a comment or something, or engage in the forums with that. I would really love to see how people work in the Meteor community, how you're working. I know the Meteor core team is all working full remote. If I can say that's true, I hope that's true. I've seen that they're working full remote. So, but maybe people have different workplace situations. So let us know, comment on that, or leave a message in the chat. We would be really happy to see how the people are working in the Meteor community.
Yes, I think it's like an interesting discussion about why people aren't happy, and definitely worth its own episode as well. So let's leave that for, or let us know in the chat if you would like us to go more in depth and have that discussion, because I would say it's definitely an interesting discussion. The question is, should we use the time to cover it or not?
So Fred has interjected here and said, yes, they are fully remote. So
sounds good.
Okay, guys. Where are we now? We are. So I found a resource, I think, that I'd like to share with you guys, because this comes up quite a bit. TypeScript is a topic, and some people love it and some people hate it. If Kelly were in the audience right now, normally he is on a Friday. I haven't seen him on the chat yet. We do have a lot of other people there I'm going to say hello to right now. Aster, hello. Fred, the CEO of Meteor, is there also. And there's some others that I've also seen here, as Gabs, Camilla. There's CZ Psycho CZ, and Simon from Benin. So, hi guys, it's good to see you all again, and it's terrific. I want to just, before I go further into the story, I just want to point out something. We have been noticing weird things happening with our view numbers, and we are not quite sure what's going on. Over the weekend, we see the views going into the upper tens, like, in the 80, 90, and then even 100, and then all of a sudden, a few days later, it gets cut down in half. And at first, we thought this might be because maybe bots were interacting with the content, but then we noticed that YouTube also cut down the number of people that they claim are in the chat with us simultaneously. For instance, last week it said we only had 2 people, and we know that's not true at all. So we're not quite sure what's going on there. We would like it very much if you are interacting and watching the stream live. If you could, in the comments, let us know that you're there. That'll help us in figuring out what the computations are when we reach out to YouTube to figure out what's happening. So, and this is also having an impact on seeing our watch hours revised. So again, it's something that's very concerning to us, because we are using this to help build a community, and we think the community is here and joining us and being part of this, but we're also seeing some weird behaviors after the fact by Meteor, and we're not quite sure what's going on there. So again, if you could help us out that way, that would be terrific. Let me get back to the story on on TypeScript though. So I read this article and it made me think of our one of our favorite folks, one of our favorite ambassadors in the Meteor community, who is Kelly. And why am I having like a senior moment with Kelly's full name right now? Kelly Copley, that's correct. Thank you. And Kelly has been a big advocate for TypeScript. And when I read this article, I thought, it's almost as if he had actually written it himself. It's not written by him. It is an article on Dev 2.0 that is written by, give me one second here, because things are covering my document. It's written by Jayant Bawal for the middleware blog. And the article is titled, "Why Hating TypeScript in 2024 Doesn't Make Any Sense." I'm going to give you the highlights of it. He points out that it's not as complicated as you think to learn TypeScript and to use it. As a matter of fact, what you're really just doing is you're just basically decorating your variables, your parameters with type descriptions, and your return types with type descriptions. And it's really not that much more in order to do that you would have to do. So you can keep it simple, you can make it more complex, but that's as far as you really need to go. So it's not as complicated as you think it is. It's not going to really make your life worse. As a matter of fact, one of the things he points out is that it will actually make your life easier when you go back to the code later to really understand fundamentally what your code is doing. What kind of data are you passing back and forth, and how are you transforming it? And in that line, he also mentions that TypeScript isn't your enemy. It's your safety net. It's the thing that makes sure that you are doing to the data what you expect to be able to do with it. And he also says that as a high point to this, or a major theme, is it allows for faster, not slower development. He points out that by putting types in, by making your code clearer and more understandable, it leads to faster development, not on the first cycle in, but also on the maintenance. So it's worth a read, give it a try. And if you're sitting on the fence as to whether or not you should go all in on TypeScript in 2024, I think he makes a really good case for going in and picking it up. So guys, have any comments on that? Or otherwise we can move on.
No, I'm fine. Let's go.
All right. And Storyteller, what should men be doing right now?
So as you have seen me posting in the chat, I'm going a bit conspiracy theory about YouTube shadow banning us. To kind of help us with this, please hit the like button so that there is no contest about how many people actually watch the video. Thank you very much. Do it right now.
Yeah.
All right,
And
guys.
coming from that, by the way, one more note regarding what 65,437 developers think why hating TypeScript also makes no sense is TypeScript is also among the most rising technologies in the surveys. Many people want to switch over to TypeScript. And because of that, we also found another article on that. You might remember some weeks, it's already months ago, we talked about all these runtimes coming out every week, a new runtime. And again, we have a new runtime because we don't have enough runtimes yet. And it's faster, 3 times faster than Bun. So next time, remember, there will be the next runtime coming up saying 10 times faster than Encore, but this time it's Encore. It's faster than Bun. It's actually fast because it's written in Rust. Who would have guessed that? And it's basically a TypeScript only runtime, as I understood that. So it's basically designed for TypeScript projects mostly, and that's interesting that it's not anymore focusing on JavaScript, but it's directly focusing on TypeScript. And maybe this is becoming a trend. Maybe we'll detect in the future even more runtimes or even more frameworks that are TypeScript first or even TypeScript only. So check that out. There also is a GitHub link there. They already have some 1,000K stars, so that's quite something. And they also have a lot of video resources out there, by the way, which I'm going to watch because they have very professionally made videos, and I want to make the same professional style videos.
Sure.
Okay,
I wanted to ask you, by the way. Okay,
Yep.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I just want to add one thing here, and this is unique for what they're offering. They also have lots of documentation on this whole architectural setup. So it's not only focused on, oh yeah, this is how I build an app, but this is also like, hey, you also show you how to design your app in a greater architecture. This is really good because this is something many JavaScript resources are lacking, actually. Just wanted to add that.
So what I was going to ask you is, I'm assuming that this runtime does not transpile TypeScript down to JavaScript. It's actually a actually a TypeScript compiler.
Like that's how I understood it. Yeah, that's how my perception. So I have to dig deeper into it if they under the hood just using some transpilation to JavaScript and so on. But I think it's not even that. I think what they're doing, they have some totally different under the hood because it's all written in Rust. So maybe this is directly managing some kind of runtime, some kind of server environment directly from TypeScript, which is why I think this is a very interesting resource for everyone to peek in, that this might become the future of web frameworks.
I think I think if it is a direct compilation, that would account for some of the speed, right? Because you don't have to go through that transpilation step in order to create your code as JavaScript first, and then do an interpretation on that code, which is
that's slow.
So which kind of leads me to my next article that I thought that would be very interesting to people, because I found it very interesting in its own way. It's somebody had written an article called Code Refactoring, 10 Lessons I Learned from Improving My Code. And that's by Gaurav Verma on the FavTutor blog. And let me just run through really quickly what he covers here. Now, you might notice that there is a pattern to the 10 lessons that he has learned, and to me, they're manifest in the sense of they are related to maintainability, code clarity, readability, and performance. One of the first things he talks about, so I'll run through the 10 items very quickly. You can read the article to get a better understanding of it. The first is to analyze the code, and that is in order to thoroughly understand the code. The second is to refactor the code as a team, because it allows you to get different perspectives on it. The third is composing methods. The fourth is simplifying conditional expressions in order to improve readability and maintainability. The fifth is to extract methods out of the code to build them out of specific tasks from the larger functional context. So you're really kind of simplifying understanding what is actually happening in it, making it a little more declarative in a sense. The sixth is to ensure that you understand your code. Now, this is related back to the first item that I talked about, analyze the code, but he emphasizes understanding what you're about to change before you change it. The seventh is setting clear objectives to maintain focus on the goal of the refactoring exercise, whether it's related to readability, performance, or something else. The eighth is to perform these changes incrementally. Don't do it all at once. Don't try to, as they say, boil the entire ocean. Do it in small chunks so that you have a clear grasp of the changes that the kinds of changes that you're trying to make. The ninth is performance considerations, and the 10th is code readability, which goes back to my point that much of this seems to be related to maintainability, code clarity, readability, and performance. Check out the article. I think you might find something useful in it. Some of the lessons learned might be things that you've encountered yourself. And for those of you that have not engaged in doing some kind of refactoring on your code, maybe this will encourage you or give you some sense as to what you should be doing when you actually engage in doing some code refactoring. And with that, I'll move on.
Yes, we are going on to the news about Meteor. So hopefully what you all been waiting for. So let's start with, there is hopefully maybe a series, but Gab and Leonardo went and did a session where they built a chat from scratch with Meteor 3. So you can watch that on YouTube if you didn't watch it live. Part of the Meteor Renaissance, kind of like the last event on that. Speaking of Meteor Renaissance, you can actually go to YouTube, and there is a playlist, so you can watch all the 3 events, on your playlist, and don't have to worry about kind of trying to find them on your own. On Meteor-related news, we have an announcement from Jam that all his packages are now officially updated for Meteor 3.0. So that's easy schema, method, Mongo transactions, offline, and pub and sub. So if you're using those packages, you can use them very easily with Meteor 3 without any issues. Speaking of tutorials, all that stuff, Nacho Codowner has published, by the looks of it, yesterday, an article on the Medium Meteor blog, how to getting started with Meteor 3 with the first steps of your React app, where he goes a bit more into the basics of running a Meteor React app based on the top of the existing skeleton, and doing some of the basic, like mutating data via methods and all that stuff. So if you are starting new with React, or if you're old, it's good, I think, to kind of look on what's kind of the official recommended way to see if there's something that you might be want to copy on that. Then what we have here is the nothing here yet, but if you look at the branch name, it says update roadmap. And if I didn't lose my cache, I would actually show you earlier today that the Meteor software team is looking to update the roadmap. If you are interested, I can send you the screenshots of what was there. I've got an official statement from Leonardo after he deleted here that they still want to do one more round of internal discussion before putting it out. So that's that. If you want to, you can maybe use the exploit that we mentioned at the beginning of the program of getting to it. But if you just gonna give you some of the highlights, let me get my journalistic undercover reporting pictures here of what you can expect coming forward. Are pretty much things that have been discussed already. So we are looking at MongoDB change stream support, improving TypeScript, replacing Babel and kind of general improvements around the build tool, other reliability improvement, modernization, support for Windows 11 and VSL, and a few others. I believe some just say not yet kind of reported here because, as I said, there needs to be discussion what exactly is going to be the focus in the near term and in the long term, and we'll have the final roadmap probably, I would say, next week or the week after more discussion is done by the team. And finally, something more spicy from the forums. We have Max7 coming back and asking the question, is anybody still preferring Blaze over React? So if you want to engender lively discussion, Blaze versus React, that is available at your leisure on the forums. And I saw Jan Kuster already has made his opinion clear. I've also replied as well. So that's for some at the end. And that's it for the quick news about Meteor this week. Back to you, Alim.
Yeah, so guys, I want to say, first of all, thank you all for those of you who've been subscribing to the channel and come back again and again each week to watch the episodes. We put some effort into doing this each week. It's not trivial. And we do this for all of you so that we could share information about Meteor and also for things that are happening within the JavaScript community and the development community in general that might affect your livelihoods. So with that, I want to say, if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel. We are up to 265 subscribers today. We're very happy about that. We have a goal of trying to get to 300 by the end of the month. I think we can do it. And if you're able to, join and you haven't done so yet, just click on the subscribe button and help us make those numbers rise. And that'll get us more visibility to get more people interested in MeteorJS through YouTube. So thank you. All right. And now let's move on to our next segment, which is Understanding Meteor. Hang on. We've got like some fancy video thing to put up here first. So let's get that up, right? And let's see here. So Understanding Meteor. This is a segment that is sponsored by Galaxy. Thank you. And we're very happy to do this segment. Galaxy is the purpose-built platform for hosting MeteorJS applications. And in the future, Galaxy will host other JavaScript applications as well as Python, we're told. Now, with this platform, we have a coupon code. You go to the site, you click on the link that we suggest to you, and we're going to have that running below. And in that link, it'll take you to a page. And at that page, you type in dispatches -60, I believe. And that will give you $60 worth of credits for using Galaxy. So you could put your application up there. For most typical applications, that'll give you about 2 months worth of runtime on Galaxy. So you should give it a shot, give it a try, and take advantage of it. And with that, we're going to switch back over to our friend, Jan Kuster, who's going to talk today about testing and code coverage with Mocha and Istanbul. So, Jan.
Yep. Yeah, so let's first talk about just briefly why I'm showing you this. I just recently updated some more applications at my workplace, Meteor applications to Meteor 3. And I was really happy about that. There is some tests with also decent code coverage, because then I found nearly every place that could break already, and it's working. And for those who don't know what's code or test coverage, it's basically a technique that allows you to track which part of your code are actually tested by the tests. Because you can write any test you want, and they can pass or they can break. That's all good, but you need to know if your logic in your code is actually covered by these tests. And maybe there is some crucial pathway in your ifs, else, whatevers that is not covered by your tests. And then in production, by some very unique circumstance, this exact branch gets entered in your program, and then everything blows up. And that's what we want to avoid, of course. That's why I love to use code coverage. And in Meteor, there is actually a package that uses Istanbul, which is the most famous code coverage still today. When you take a look at NPM, it still has millions of downloads, and it's basically an automatic code coverage tool. And there is another Meteor package for that. Just let me quickly open that. It's called Meteor coverage, and it's a little bit outdated, but no worries. I'm currently working. So here's the repository to that, which is named differently. So I just pulled up both pages. There's a pull request. I'm working on the migration for 3.0. Worry not. There are just a few things to figure out until that. But for today, I just want to show you how to basically integrate this in your project, because it's much easier than you think. It sounds all complicated, but it's not. And for that, I'm really starting with creating a new project. Meteor create -release 3.0.1, and then coverage example. That's totally fine. And I'm using a clean project because this is always good for people to reproduce. Yeah, so you understand it the most, because there's just very few code in there. And when you have this project, then of course go into the coverage example, and then you need to install npm install --save dev. That's a dev dependency. Babel -plugin -Istanbul. What is this now? Why we install some Babel stuff now? It's much easier than you think. In Meteor, we're using Babel to transpile all the code, or to bundle all the code, and we can automatically pass through code to be instrumented by Istanbul. We don't need to configure anything besides putting one little RC file in our code. And in order to do that, let me open the coverage example project. That's the newly created project there. And just let me create a new file called .babelrc. That's how it's named. Just placed in the project root. And then in this babelrc, I'm adding an env property, which is short for environment. Yeah. And I will talk about what this is in a minute. And we want to have this environment named coverage. And when the environment coverage is active, then we want to have the Istanbul plugin being active. That's basically what we're telling the program with this configuration file. And if we want to run these tests with coverage active, we can then use a environment variable, and it's called babel_env equals coverage. Then I can run Meteor test, and driver package. Oh, of course, yeah. -driver -package, and then I'm using Meteor testing Mocha, which is, by the way, a Meteor community package. So this is also maintained by us, the Meteor community packages group, which is many of the Meteor developers, but very on the top most of all, it's Storyteller and also me. And this is the official automatic integration of Mocha in Meteor applications for testing. And if we're running this, then it will use Babel env to instrument, but you will see there will be nothing to instrument right now because we still need the Meteor package for that. And this Meteor package, I'm adding this to the packages here. So Meteor coverage, and at 4.3.0, that's the latest version I'm working on in the migration branch. So in a few days, this package, when this package is released, then you can officially download it. It will now tell me this package doesn't exist. That's fine for now. I'm creating a packages directory and link it there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going into packages, and because I have it linked here. I make ln-s Meteor coverage, and then don't get confused by this called Meteor legacy coverage. This is basically coverage for packages. We don't need it right now, but it's good to have it. So now I'm running this again, and I need to add a few more environment variables here called coverage out HTML equals 1 and coverage, let's go active equals 1. Let's see how that works. And in the meantime, let me open up this coverage here again to see if I used the correct environment variables, because I have this used once and then I don't need them anymore. So there was something I missed. It's not coverage, sorry. It's not coverage active, it's coverage equals 1. Then it's loading the packages. Okay, there's something missing, apparently. What is this? I'm missing the out directory. So where to save the coverage, which is coverage _app folder. And then we want to use the current folder, the project working directory. And then it looks okay. Oh no, yeah. Okay, let's see if that works. By the way, I did nothing magic. That's just all documented here in the package repository. So let's see what's going on here. Failed to save HTML report. Oh my God. So that's that's unfortunate. Let's see what the coverage does here. So why does it not save my HTML report? That's really unfortunate now, because this is basically what I wanted to show you, everyone. Let me quickly check what's going on here for now. Oh, maybe I forgot the Babel, the .coverage file, right? Give me a second. Okay, let's do some live debugging. There is a flag called coverage verbose. Let's use that. Let this run. And then there will be many of these messages here. Okay, that doesn't help me at all. Packages. Oh, there's something called packages, and we have no packages here. This is something we don't want, apparently. Oh, sorry, because I'm in the packages directory. Of course, it doesn't make any sense. Small things with a big implication. So let's see how that works. Still failed to run the coverage report, but at least there is a .coverage folder, so we can take a look inside this. It has at least copied the files. I'm really worried now what's going on here. So let's use a different, let's use a different one. Let's use out JSON. Let's see what is. So what I'm basically doing is here, coverage can be reported in different forms. Maybe you want to view it in the browser, then you use HTML. Oh, it's also failing the JSON report. What is going on here? That's actually not very elegant because it worked before the tutorial. This is a little bit embarrassing today. So in the meantime, while I'm looking what it is, Alim, Jan, what do you think about this for now? Can you follow up with this? Do you understand the concept, first of all, what I talked so far? Or do you think there needs to be a little bit more visual understanding of how this works?
Yes, as I stated in the chat, I really would love for this to be integrated in core and made easier, so that you don't have to set up all the environment variables, everything. There should be just Meteor test, and it should give you everything. So I think that's going future for Meteor. I think that's a necessity, and it's one of the issues that's going to be holding me back to really implement all these tests, because it's, despite you doing things here, it's very easy to mess something up, as we have seen, and miss something, and then it becomes super difficult to kind of move forward that unless you are kind of really deep into testing. So it's not just the coverage for unit test. The same thing can very easily happen with end-to-end tests, like with Cypress. And just recently I finished for the universe fixing up stuff around biome linting, which overall I would say is a step up from the mess of tens of ESLint packages and here. So in a way, I would say overall, like over the years, it's moving in the correct direction, and I think this needs to be really looked at more into the Meteor core to make it even easier. And I would say, especially like for testing, I think I don't think there's anybody complaining that or anybody wanting that to be opinionated, or sorry, not opinionated, to be kind of free. I think being opinionated, super opinionated on testing I don't think people would mind at all, because test is not something where people have strong discussions. People just want to write tests quickly and then have them run. And I don't think anybody is there, getting all giddy and excited about all the different options for tests.
Yeah. There's one thing to note, and that is actually there is already a native coverage in Node.js. I just don't know, because it's completely not working with Babel at all. It's a different approach, so I can't tell you if this is actually capable of being integrated into Meteor that easily. But in the end, if there is something native from Node, we should think about using this, right? And looking at this. And so look, it's not finishing to be written, the summary JSON. Let me check if I can use text. Text summary. Let's see if the text summary is written, because I just want to show you how this looks like in the end. And if that's not working, I think we have 9 more minutes. Oh, this is passing. Crazy, crazy. Let's see. There is a summary text, and there is nothing. 0, 0, 0. Oh my God, that's not working. So let's see what happens in the tests. Main.test. Oh, now I totally get it. Okay, guys.
Well, if your tests are not covering anything, then you are of course going to get 0 on the scorecard.
Yeah. These tests are actually passing, so I'm not sure why this is not passing right now. Why is it not? Yeah, that's actually something that really bothers me now, why this is not working, because in my other app is working. Okay, what I could do is, let me quickly just show you this with another application I'm running, where it's running basically. So just let me close this.
And you can follow up later on with, if you are able to figure it out.
Yes,
you can
yes,
follow
yes.
up in the
So
comments later on
what
about
I
what
want
the
to
issue
show
is.
you is, so I have another app. So I have another app which is basically all the same, where we have also the coverage being added here in the package.json as Babel plugin Istanbul, and instead of a .babel.sc, I'm using this entry here in the package.json, which is also working because the Babel compiler of Meteor is picking that up, and I'm just running the tests here, so they're all getting through. And here is the coverage folder that is created after every test run. And in this coverage folder, if I'm opening this, opening in my file manager, let's see, there's this .coverage folder, and there's this index file, and this shows me now all the files I've written tests for. And let me zoom this up a little bit. So you can see all these files I've written tests for. It's a small application, so I don't have so many tests here, but you can see how many statements, branches, and functions I'm covering. And let's check something more complex like this. Okay, so you have a file, and in this file, you can see this is all green. You can see this is all covered, which is why it has 100% coverage. So all the tests I've written have covered these. And if I'm opening the test file for that, that's the, so you can see the test file here, which is basically import API accounts, and then there are the tests. It was called create invite users. So as you can see, these are the tests for it. And for these tests, it has a lot of cases. It will delegate user creations, will delegate role assignment, will delegate error handling. So I have many cases, use cases I created, and then I checked always the coverage file for that until I have covered every branch. And then there is something like this one, for example. So you can see here, there is this case. This is not covered by the tests. So I've written a test that is basically assuming that it's all working, and there's no. I have written no tests where this returns false. So this is basically the benefit of the coverage. I can immediately see, oh, there's some tests missing, or here is something like the logger, because I don't really have the logger tested because this is part of the debugging process. So it's immediately showing me, hey, this is missing. And yeah, I mean, here's something. It's all the same. So I've most of the stuff I already got covered, and this is what your coverage should look like, right? Here's something. This is a bigger file, and you can see here are some errors that should be thrown that are not covered yet. And you see there are even more branches that are not covered. And there's even big debates out there between developers, like, should we have 100% coverage? Or there are others saying like, you just need to cover the most important stuff. And there's a big spectrum between all these. Yep. So actually, I failed today to show you a coherent example, but I hope you got the idea, and I hope I also pulled up a discussion about this whole coverage thing, make people consider using Meteor coverage, maybe also check out the repository, follow up on my migration branch, maybe help me out. There is some issue which are also opened in the Meteor repository, which basically prevented me from, but I also got another input to test why this is not working. So was a good, for me, a good opportunity to see why this is not working. And
so this is the risk of live coding always, right? Is
yep.
that is that sometimes your nicely laid plans don't always work out, and that's okay, because that's what of building anything is. It doesn't always work out the way you plan, and then you have to figure out what's going on. So I think you have some homework now, Kuster, in terms of trying to figure out what exactly happened, and then maybe there'll be a follow-up video or maybe an article on this activity. And yeah.
And again,
All right.
thanks to everyone for watching.
Yes. So, guys, if you haven't done it already, don't forget to like. And I hope by this point you already have your subscription so that you know when the next episode and other content is coming up. It's not a guarantee that it's going to appear in your timeline, but it's better, that you have, subscription to us so that you have a bigger chance of seeing our content.
Absolutely. And coming up next week, we have Storyteller is streaming on a project that he's been working on. He's continuing on how to build a roles example app. So that happens on Monday. That is what time? 10 a.m. in my time, in Eastern time, is when you start Storyteller.
Right. That sounds about right, for 4 p.m. Central European time.
Okay. And I believe that is also 11 a.m. Brazilian time, because I know we've got a lot of Brazilian followers here. So with that, I'm going to bid you guys all a great weekend. Thank you for joining us again, and we'll see you next week. All right.